the name of Allah, who is most merciful and most beneficent. Welcome to Dr. Hassan Mathematics channel. Today is my first lecture of BS Mathematics Numerical Analysis. We will study about bisection method. Its other name is Bolzano method or interval having method. Bisection method is used to find the approximate value of algebraic equation and transcendental equation. Algebraic equation is x square plus 3x minus 9. And transcendental equation is x square cos x plus 3 sin x minus 9 is equal to 0. Transcendental equation, those equations which involve sin x, cos x, cot x. Let f of x be continuous function between interval a and b. Suppose f of a is negative and f of b is positive. Then there is a root of f of x is equal to 0. Length between a and b interval, let first approximation x1 is equal to a plus b over 2. Now if f of x is 0, then x1 is the root of f of x. Otherwise, the root will be lie between a and x1 or b, depending upon whether f of x is positive or negative. This process till end the root is found to the desired accuracy. Root we will get when sign is changed. Graphical explanation is we take x-axis and y-axis, we take a graph y equal to f of x. These graphs intersect only one point on x-axis. This x-axis is positive, y-axis is positive, x-axis is negative, y-axis is negative. We take this graph interval a and b. F of b is we take point x-axis because f of b is positive and f of b is negative because lower in negative y-axis. Alpha is the root, we will find it. Its name is alpha. When sign is changed, root gives us f of b is positive and f of a is negative. Sign is changed, x1 is root gives us. If x1 is positive or negative, if x1 is positive, f of a is negative, root x2 is second approximation is we will get. Similarly, this process till end gives us alpha root. For example, find a root of equation x square minus 2 is equal to 0. These are algebraic equations correct to 4 decimal bisection method. Its root is find about 4 decimal but using bisection method or Bolzano method. Let algebraic equation is equal to f of x square minus 2. First we find values x and f of x. Put values, x is 0 gives us minus 2 and then x is 1 put gives us its values negative 1 and x is 2 put and gives us its values 2 is positive. Sign is changed, 1 and 2 gives us root. F of 1 is negative and f of 2 is positive. Root lies between 1 and 2. First approximation is considered a is equal to 1 and b is equal to 2. First approximation is x1 a plus b by 2. Value of a is 1 and b is 2. Then solve is 1.5. These values of f of x1 is put into f of x. X square minus 2. Values of x1 is put and then solve it gives us it positive. So root lies between x1 and a because when sign is changed, root gives us x1 is positive and value of a is negative. This root lies between x1 and a. Second approximation is x2 x1 plus a over 2. Putting these values and solve it, values of x2 is put into f of x is equal to x square minus 2. Then solve it, these values is negative. When sign is changed, root gives us, so root lies between x1 and x2 because x1 is positive and x2 is negative. Then third approximation is x3, x1 plus x2 by 2. Similarly, solve it 1.0625. These value put into f of x and gives us negative. So root lies between x1 and x3 because x1 is positive and x3 is negative. So fourth approximation is x1 plus x3 over 2. Its values is putting and then solve it. These values put into f of x square minus 2 and then solve it gives us this again negative value. So the root lies between x1 is positive and x4 is negative. Then fifth approximation is x5 is x1 plus x4 by 2. Putting these values and then solve it. x1 is values 1.5 and x4 is values 1.28125. Then solve it. These values put into f of x square minus 2 is equal to 0. Then solve it again gives us is negative. So root lies between x1 and x5 because x1 is positive and x5 is negative gives us value. Sixth approximation is between x1 and x5. Then solve it. These values put into f of x square 2 is equal to 0. Then solve it. These values is positive. So root lies between x5 and x6 because x6 is positive and x6 is negative. So root lies between values, sign is changed. Seventh approximation is similarly and then solve it. Then root gives us positive. So root lies between x7 and x5 because x7 is positive and x5 is negative. Eighth approximation is x5 plus x7 over 2. These putting values and then solve it. These values put into f of x square minus 2 is equal to 0. Then solve it. These gives us negative. So root lies between x7 and x8 because x7 is positive, x8 is negative gives us. Ninth approximation is x7 plus x8 by 2. These putting values and then solve it. These values put into f of x square is equal to 0 and then solve it negative values. So root lies between x7 and x9 because x9 is negative, x7 is positive. 10th approximation is x7 plus x9 by 2. Put values of x7 and x9 divided by 2 and then solve it. These values put into f of x is equal to x square minus 2 is equal to 0. Then solve it again, solve it positive value. So root lies between x9 and x10 because x9 is negative and x10 is positive. Then 11th approximation is x9 plus x10 divided by 2. Put values of x9 is 9. These values put and x10 is put divided by 2. Then solve it. These values put into f of x is equal to x square minus 2. Then solve it negative value. So root lies between x10 and x11 because x10 is positive value and x11 is negative value. 12th approximation is between x10 and x11 divided by 2. Putting these values x10 and x12 then solve it. These values put into f of x square minus 2. These values put into this equation because we check that sign is positive or negative. Then solve it. Its value is negative. its value is negative 0.00142. So root lies between x10 and x12. x10 is positive value and x12 is negative value. When sign is changed, so root lies. 13th approximation is x10 plus x12 divided by 2. Put values of x10 and x12 divided by 2. Then solve it. These values put into f of x square minus 2 is equal to 0. Then solve it, gives us positive value. So root lies between x13 and x12 because x13 is positive and x12 is negative. Then 14th approximation is between x12 plus x13 divided by 2. Putting these values and solve it, again put into values f of. In this equation we check that root is positive or negative. So root lies between x14 and x12 because x14 is positive gives us and x12 is negative values. Similarly, 15th approximation is x12 plus x14 divided by 2. Putting values of x12 and x14 divided by 2, then solve it. Then these values put into again f of x square minus 2 is equal to 0. Then gives us negative values. So root between x14 and x15 because x14 is positive and x15 is negative. Similarly, x16 approximation between x14 and x15 divided by 2, putting values of x14 and x15 divided by 2, then solve it, again put in these answer. This process till end. First we say that find a root of equation x square minus 2 is equal to 0 correct to 4 decimal. We find root about 4 decimal places. 4 decimal places. x15 approximation is answer is 1.41382 and x16 approximation answer is 1.41388 because about 4 approximation answer will be same, then answer will be same 2 approximation, then will stop and gives us root. Hence x5 and x16 are repeated up to 4 decimal places, hence root is lies between 1.4138. Basically these are required accuracy values of alpha 1.4138. Assalamu alaikum. Next we meet in the next lecture. Thank you.